12:49 is the time. Before we get stuck into the next very serious and important conversation, a quick word to an old mate of mine who I haven't seen for probably the best part of 30 years, more than 30 years. But at the top of the show, when I talk to you about the kind of laughter you have when someone breaks wind in chapel, not just in church when there might be 100 people, but if there's 12 of you in a small chapel, and your housemaster, as in the person in charge of disciplining you, is also a priest, which is what happened in my school days, a monk. And someone in that tiny, tiny space breaks wind loudly while your housemaster stroke monk is doing the religious bit. The laughter that you hold in circumstances like that is unique. And there is never anything quite as funny isn't the right word to describe it as when you're not allowed to laugh, and you catch your friend's eye, or you notice someone else giggle, or someone lets out a giggle, and you just can't cry. Well, I'm delighted to tell you that my old mate Martin was actually listening at that point in the conversation, and he was one of the 12 people. What are the odds? One of the 12 people back in the 1980s, that would be, who indeed will know exactly of what I'm talking about. As he says, absolutely juvenile and completely hilarious. I hope you're still listening. If you're not, someone will tell you that I gave you a shout out. I told Omid Djalili last time he was here that whenever he wanted to come back and draw attention to particular aspects of the ongoing protests, it's a remarkable rolling protest that isn't going anywhere. Then he would be welcome to do so.
And what a great segue. What a great segue.
It's pretty smooth, right? I should have said, speaking of comedy, here it is. One of Britain's best
Speaking of lingering smells, he's here.
Speaking of flatulence. In holy places. No, so...
But thank you. Thanks for having me back on, James.
You know it's always a pleasure. What is the issue or the element of the ongoing protest that you're most concerned about at the moment?
Well, right now, look, what we're talking about is the first girls' revolution in the history of humanity. And the only other time where women have stood up was the suffragette movement, where women in Britain at the turn of the 20th century were fighting hard. They were fighting against the patriarchy, but they were fighting for their place in a man's world. They were fighting for equal footing. What's happening in Iran is the women are fighting to bring down a regime, which we've never seen before. They're fighting a group of people who believe that women are not only second-class citizens, they're animals. Animals in human form, which men can use whichever way they want. They shouldn't be educated. Even in Afghanistan now, we've heard that women have been banned from parks. I mean, it's crazy. So what's just happened now is all the people have been protesting, of which we believe approximately 14,800 are in prison right now. The Iranian regime government, 277 out of 290 people have voted to give the judiciary the right for capital punishment, to execute all of these people, which includes one person who's already been given his execution orders. His name is Saman Yassin. He's a Kurdish person. I think he's a rapper as well. It includes a 15-year-old girl who's been giving out sweets with the words "women, life, freedom" on them. So these people could all potentially be executed in the coming months as they get through the paperwork to do it. So it's very important that I should say that right now there's a global movement to try and say these people's names, to get amnesty. Everyone, the United Nations have done nothing. There's been nothing at all. I'm very happy that the British government finally, on the 9th of November, have sent out the thing in support of women and in support of other groups like myself, the Baha'is, who are being persecuted. We need to get the word out to stop this from happening. Now, many people say, what difference does it make? But actually, the regime are a bit... They're like looking at Hello magazine.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a celebrity and that you talk too much about them, they go, all right, we won't kill them, but we'll give them a strong sanction. So actually, if we keep putting it out there, keep winning the battle for hearts and minds, then I think that there's going to make a big difference.
It's the spotlight. The stronger the spotlight is, the more likely they are to step out of it when it comes to a decision like that.
It is, but it's also what's happening as well, James, which is remarkable, is that the people who are doing the killing, the security forces, if you see the videos, they're going in, they're in packs, beating people up, running them over, shooting them. These people have come out and said, we are on the side of the people. They said, well, what the hell are you doing? They said, we are security forces. We've got body cams on us. And if we don't put a number of kicks and punches in or shoot people, they will kill us. Apparently, unconfirmed reports, one of the security forces was not doing anything. They shot him in the head in front of everyone.
Wow.
So people are saying, the security force is saying that if we don't do this, our families will be killed. So we have a battle for hearts and minds, which is winning. They're winning. The people are winning, but the people doing the killing, punching and kicking are still out there doing it.
I asked you this last time you were here, and optimism seems a slightly inappropriate word given the context of capital punishment that we're discussing, but there is a sense almost of inevitability of success here, which worries me slightly as an outsider, as an observer.
Success for what? Sorry.
That eventually the regime is going to topple, that it has to fall this time.
There is growing optimism only because they've reached that endpoint where you see videos of women. This has been a peaceful protest, yes, apart from a few people throwing stones against the might of guns and bombs, and there were even helicopters shooting at people in Karaj recently. I think that there's growing optimism because they've reached that point where you see videos of women on the floor saying, "You're just going to have to shoot us. You're just going to have to kill. You're going to have to kill us all." And I think once you've hit that point, there has to be foreign intervention. There has to be a way, through activism, that finally this government is isolated and humiliated and shamed in front of the world. That if they don't change, they will have to be removed in some shape or form.
But they're not going anywhere without a particularly ugly fight, are there? 14,000 people estimated to have been arrested, and I think we're about to see public trials again, which is Taliban territory, isn't it? Really?
It's Taliban. Yeah. Do you remember the Taliban? They used to stone women in
football
stadiums and all that. I'm not sure it's going to be like that. I think that the method they use these days is hanging. But for the crimes which are protesting, shouting slogans, I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. But I think the more we have awareness about it, that the proper institutions, I mean, someone like me, I can come on, I can talk to you about it. Last time we were on, I'm not saying it made a difference, but there was a bit more awareness, yes, and we had people talking about it. And now we've got people like Nazanin Boniadi was at the United Nations, and they're trying to get the UNHCR, the Human Rights Commission, to actually do something. And I think it's time now for action. And I think we're talking, we're going to keep talking, we're going to keep posting, we're going to keep raising awareness. But at the end of the day, we need governmental action. We need action on a global scale.
What pressure can you bring to bear on the British government? You mentioned that better late than never, that they've intervened a couple of days ago. But is it appropriate to talk about the football again, about the World Cup again? I mean, Iran currently expecting to play, aren't they still?
They're expecting to play, and it's very interesting to me. I mean,
that's a terrible thing when you think about it. The idea that, because subconsciously, people who are not lucky isn't quite the right word, who aren't informed, they're subconsciously, the thought is going to be, well, they can't be doing that bad things because they're allowed to play at the World Cup.
They're allowed to play at the World Cup. And it's a big one because as a football fan, I want them to play. I want them to go out there. I would love to see, the Iranian team walking out with female mascots aged between 7 and 12 without wearing the hijab and an Iran top with no Iranian Islamic regime flag. But at the same time, if they do remove Iran, even at the final moment, if Iran are expelled from the World Cup, that sends a massive, that's a huge thing. But having said that, it's kind of win-win. Because even if they don't and they play,
the players will make it clear that they're not playing for the regime.
Yeah, and there will be people protesting. Qatar is not far away from Iran. People will be protesting, and people in Iran will hear that. They might put different broadcast over it, but people will know with the placards and things the people will be protesting.
Yeah. The word will get out.
Yeah.
Finally, Omid, the prospect of capital punishment for people like Salman Yassin and others. Is it high? I mean, it's not just a threat or a deterrent or
no,
rhetoric.
They're absolutely serious because they did this last time. They wiped out 1,500 people. You have to understand, for the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, killing people is as simple as drinking water because it's God-led. It's religious, that they are doing God's work. They believe that. If you do things which are a corruption on earth, if you put kicks in and punches and shoot people, you will go to heaven. That's what they believe. So this is it's not an empty threat. It's going to happen unless we do something.
And lawyers representing them are at risk of arrest. And 2 female journalists who last week helped break the story of Masha Amini's death have been denounced as spies by the authorities, which is also an offence that
and they could be executed as well. Just people doing their job is enough to get killed.
Keep talking about it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Always seriously.